Barack is the only person in this race in the Democratic Party who has had significant state legislative experience, 8 years at the state level. Now, I would just ask you, don't you think it would be helpful to have a president of the United States who actually understands what happens at the local level? Understands how federal mandates, unfunded, can impact local communities? Barack is the only person in this race, 8 years, working at a legislative level. He's got more legislative experience than anybody in this race on the Democratic side. See, they don't tell you that when they're talking about experience. See, because when we're defining experience in a shifting, moving world of bars, you define the experience so narrowly so that the only person it includes is you. But let me tell you something. In the state Senate, Barack got things done. And I want to remind people, because that's another thing they say, is Barack tough enough? Can he handle the Republicans? Look, folks, we live in Chicago. Illinois politics. We have seen and heard it all. And even in that climate, Barack's great experiment with his experience in politics has been, let me try something different. Let me try bringing my values to this process, because I do have a choice. Let me see what happens if I tell people the truth, if I am honest and I'm open, and if I listen to people even if I don't agree with them, if I reach out and work with people regardless of their race or their political affiliation, if I make friends with folks in downstate Illinois and I earn their trust and respect, and then I'm really smart and I work harder and faster than anyone, what happens? Well, let me tell you in Illinois what happened. Barack, working most of his time in the minority, got a lot done. Stuff like expanding health care for kids in our state, passing an earned income tax credit for the working poor, helping to pass ethics reform in a state that hadn't seen it in more than 25 years. So you don't make friends in Illinois when you're talking about ethics reform. Barack helped to mend a broken death penalty system that sent dozens of innocent men to death row. He worked on racial profiling. I could go on. Barack has become one of the most well-respected politicians in the state of Illinois because of his values. He didn't become a part of the process. He rose above it, and people respect that. See, because it is about character and choices over a lifetime that lead you to ultimate choices. And as a lawyer, if we need any further evidence, I give you Exhibit A, the war in Iraq. See, because that's something that is tough to spin. Because the truth there, the facts were that we were a nation afraid, as we so often are, of everyone and everything. And we had leadership that motivated us by fear, as we have been motivated for so long. Worry about who's trying to get you, what you got to be afraid of. And we bought into that. We were mad and we were angry. We wanted tough talk. And then we had all these folks with their years of Washington experience. They all brought that experience to bear. They talked to each other. They read all the same materials. And every single one of them, all of them in this race, marched us into this war. And the only person in this race who had the good sense to think differently and say, wait a second, let me think about this. Let me think about my experiences abroad and what it's like living in other cultures and figuring out whether we really think we can go over there and solve what is a civil crisis with military solutions. Let me think about what I learned in law and at the state level of how much this is going to cost us and whether we have the material might and the will to make this happen. He looked at all of that with his judgment and he said this war was wrong. And see, the thing that his opponents will say, because that bar moves and shifts, is that, well, that didn't matter because Barack wasn't in the U.S. Senate. Or what they will fail to tell you is that Barack wasn't in the U.S. Senate only because he was trying to get to the U.S. Senate. See, when Barack stood up publicly and courageously, he was in the midst of his own tough U.S. Senate primary. It was a race that he was not supposed to win. Because you know what they were saying in mean, tough Illinois? They said, he's too young. They said he was too inexperienced. They said he should wait his turn. They said that he couldn't raise the money. They said he couldn't build the political organization. Does this sound familiar? They said that he was too black. They said that he wasn't black enough. And then when all that didn't work, they threw in a little fear bomb. And they said, well, wait, his name is funny. There is no way that white folks in downstate Illinois will vote for a man named Barack Obama. We have heard it all. So I'm telling you, when you don't see Barack getting all worked up, it's because he's heard it all before.